imagine growing up not knowing the truth about who you are because you've been lied to about your race? Well, our next guest did not find out that she was black until she was 18 years old. When she learned the truth, she made a film about her life called Little White Lie. Take a look.
Coming to Independent Lens.
I grew up in a world with synagogue, Hebrew school, bar mitzvahs. So it never occurred to me that I was passing. I actually grew up believing I was white.
The black girls in school would be like, why are you trying to be white?
Lacey came to me and said,
Mom, you have to tell me why I looked the way I did.
it was like, oh no.
Little White Lie.
Wow, riveting.
All right.
Please welcome Lacey Schwartz to the show. Welcome to The Real Lacey.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you here. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I know I want to know, and other inquiring minds want to know as well. Why didn't you know you were black until you were 18? That's an adult.
So as I said, I grew up with two white Jewish parents, and my mother had had an affair, and no one talked about it. And I was told, you know, the story and what we all believed, really, there was such denial running through my whole family, was that my father had a dark-skinned, like, Sicilian grandfather, and that was where the recessive genes came from.
So was your dad, who you were raised with, who's not biologically your father, but who is your dad,
Yeah.
was on your birth certificate
Yes.
and being
Yeah,
passed
yeah.
off as his child?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I grew up in a town. I grew up in Woodstock, New York, which is primarily white, and really it was a bubble. You know, I think it's so interesting because, you know, we think, oh, that's so obvious, but other people have a totally different perspective on things. Like, they don't see things, and we don't talk about it, right? So actually, when I went to high school, and it's covered in the film, is the first time I was really in any sort of diverse community, although it was still very segregated. So in the hallways, as, you know, my friend said in the clip, kind of people would come up to me, you know, black women, and say, come on. But my friends were just, they were in it with me.
Okay, got it.
And if they were told you're white and your mom is saying, no, she's white, why would your friends say that that's not true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever actually meet your biological father?
I did. He was like a friend of my mom's. He was kind of around. He was somebody I knew growing up. Yeah, he was somebody we knew. My mother had met him working back in the day in a playground in Brooklyn. And so he was somebody I knew. I just didn't know he was my biological father.
But did you feel like when you heard African drums or you heard some rhythm?
Oh my God.
I'm not trying to be funny. Like, did you feel like
Different.
Yeah.
Connected to it at all or anything?
Honestly, I did.
Yeah, so deep down.
I mean, it was also, you know, it's the time period I came up with. Like, I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, where we forget now, like, hip-hop is so mainstream, but it wasn't then, you know, but I was still down with it. So it's like I was on the cusp a little bit, but figuring it out.
you was feeling that Wu-Tang, wasn't you? Okay.
Crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
So the film you made about all of this is called Little White Lie. How does your mother feel about it?
The reason I made the film is because family secrets are so prevalent,
Yes.
right? So many people have them, and we don't talk about them, and they affect who we are so, so deeply. And so my mother, I give her a lot of credit because she went there with me. And as she talks about it, she really feels like, A, it made our relationship stronger, and B, it helped her to learn how to stop lying when she was really in her own trap. You know, as part of the project, we also have an online site where other people can share their little white lie.
Wow.
Because part of it is I really want to bring away the stigmatization around, you know, people feeling like they can't talk about things. And so all of that is up on our website at littlewhitelieTheFilm.com, and the film is available on iTunes and other digital platforms.
I can't wait. I'm
I
watching it.
cannot wait
can't
to
wait.
see it.
I do
going
have
to
a
watch.
personal question.
Yes.
Because, you know, I'm biracial and I have the same hair as you do. So growing up, did you ever question, like, oh my gosh, my hair, you know, this is naturally correct? Because when I look at you, I'm like, you could be a part of my family. So did anyone ever explain, like, your curls, or how did they explain that?
My mother had curly hair, but
Okay,
it wasn't
she had
quite
curly,
as
that's
curly
right.
as mine. So it's like you try to find ways to explain things away. You know, oh, well, this is why, like the grandfather thing, like, oh, my hair is like this and my hair is like that, but it still didn't quite fit.
Got it. Well, Lacey, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story.